Hey friend, it's MJ Gordon here, and today we're going to talk about how much you should be saving every single month. This is one of my favorite topics because savings in the beginning was one of those things that I just really did not like to do. It was so much more fun to just spend money and enjoy it and just simply hope for the best. But most of us know that savings can actually generate a lot of value when it comes to our time, money, and energy. Accidents happen that are unforeseen. We want to plan for our future or make sure that we have enough resources to be able to do the things we want to do, like launch our business or go on vacation. And this is where the savings comes into place. But this goes into a rabbit hole that is beyond just the traditional save 15 to 50% every single month. While that's a great start, most people can't save 50% each month, and 15% is not really going to be enough. So how much should you really be saving each month? I'm going to talk about how to get started regardless of what financial situation you're at right now, how much exactly you should be saving each month, and how to increase that savings amount if your lifestyle or future needs requires more. So the first step to this whole situation is to put it through what I call the everyday vacation process. EVP. And those three acronyms stand for the three steps that it takes to go through this process. E being the elements. You first need to identify the elements that are going to help you create life on your terms. This not only includes the present elements that you have in your life right now, such as the cost of living, your bills, etc., but also the things that you learned from the past where you may have gone wrong. One of those areas for me is health insurance and not having enough savings for if accidents happen medically. And this also includes in the future. Do you plan on getting married, having kids, starting a business, retiring, etc.? You want to take it on a piece of paper and just write all of these elements down that are important to you. Next, you want to list those elements in priority of the most important at number 1, all the way down the list to the least important. This is the exact same process we go through in phase 2 of the Everyday Vacation program, only we have applicable worksheets that we walk through step by step and live coaching and trainings for implementation. So if you haven't checked that out, check it out in the link below. Now, step 2 is V for value, and you're also going to vacate the things that don't add value. So you want to identify out of this list what things truly add value. Maybe you can't do it all just yet. So what things in the present are going to add the most immediate value to you? And you do kind of want to think in the future. Like, I wouldn't omit an emergency fund because having money sit there doesn't feel like it adds value. But what if something happens and you might need that emergency fund? How much less stressed are you going to be, or how much value is that going to create by simply having it? I want you to think on terms of value like this, and then take the things that are not applicable, like maybe saving for like a $5,000 trip to Hawaii next year, might not be applicable just yet, and vacate those off the list or just set them aside. The last step in the EVP is P for prepare and progress. That means take action and evolve with that action. You can set up a plan and you can build awareness as much as you like, but if you don't have a plan that you take into action and you don't progress that action, then you plateau and you don't evolve. So it's important to generate balance. And sometimes that balance has to come from either vacating more out of the things that don't add value, really nitpicking at your budget, and so that you can save more, or how to make more money. If you know me, I'm a big fan of entrepreneurship, side hustles, and starting your own business. It's the easiest, most productive way to generate more income. Or utilize bonuses, maybe commission checks from work, cash gifts, or i.e. your stimulus check, to add more funds towards your savings. The idea that I like to create in this balance is to learn from your past so that you have a solid and enjoyable present, but also you can level up and continue to evolve positively in the future. This is always going to be evolving and hopefully improving as you go along the way. So there are 3 types of savings that you want to have. Number 1, it's short term. Number 2, midterm. And number 3, long term. We're going to go into each one, but basically you're going to progress starting from short and working your way out to long term. And that first step is the well-known emergency fund. It is so important to have an emergency fund, and many of us can experience this right now as we're going through what we just went through with this whole global crisis / pandemic. Having a backup is more than invaluable. It reduces the amount of stress that you have. It gives you more time, and then you spend less energy having to worry or concern yourself if you're put in a situation where your back's up against the wall. This also generates so much value if you get sick, you get injured, you lose your job, or any other emergency instances might occur. So ideally you want to start with 1 month of savings. If you go Dave Ramsey style, he says have a $1,000 emergency fund. Depending on your lifestyle or what you're responsible for, like for me, I have a big property and business, $1,000 doesn't go very far. So I like to say step one is save up 1 month of your savings. From there, you're going to want to build this up to 1 to 3 months worth of savings. And then tier 2, what I like to say is 3 to 6 months, and then 6 to 12 months, what I call advanced or tier 3. But once you have 1 to 3 months worth of savings, I really believe you can move into step 2, or the second area of savings, which is your midterm savings. And this is a savings that stays in liquidated cash where it's ready to use for, say, a down payment on a house, if you decide to have a kid, get pregnant, or you want to travel someplace. This is like planning for your future, so you don't have to go into debt over a wedding, over starting a family, or starting a business. When it comes to midterm savings, I like to list everything that I have on my bucket list, from having kids to wanting to travel or wanting to build a business, and the general cost range of how much I need to make those things happen. Now, if I have a timeline where I say in the next 5 to 10 years I want to buy a house, and the houses that I'm looking at might range between X and X amount of money, how much down savings do I have to save up for 20% of that, plus a buffer, plus extra expenditures, and then break that down to a monthly cost. This encompasses everything from your travel plans to getting a new dog, buying a new car, etc. You want to try to think of as many things as you're looking to spend or purchase on in the future, and create a monthly budget to save for that by that certain date. The beautiful thing about midterm savings is you can utilize this savings fund to also allocate towards your long-term savings or investments. What I mean by this is if your Roth IRA, for example, maxes out at $500 a month, if you're saving $500 a month, rather than putting it into your Roth IRA, you can save all that up during the year so that in case any emergencies come up, you still have access to that cash. And then at the end of the year, you can allocate as much as you want into the Roth IRA. This is a great way to be able to tackle your short, mid, and long-term savings if you don't have enough funds to cover it all. As far as long-term savings goes, this is all about retirement, college funds for the kids, trust accounts, things that build your long-term wealth for like the end of your life. And for a lot of us, that seems like it takes a lot of foresight. It can feel overwhelming, but it really comes down to this. How much money do you want to have every single year when you're retired? You can factor in things like purchasing a home and paying off that home so you have no mortgage cost by the time that you're required, and that decreases your cost of living. But simply taking the time to try to imagine or foresee your life in the future when you're retired, and what kind of responsibilities you're gonna have, what kind of lifestyle you want to live, whether it be jet setting every single month, or if you just wanna stay in a quaint home and garden, and how much that's going to cost you. Keep in mind, you're also probably going to want to increase things like healthcare insurance and potentially any other help that you might need as you age. It's also important to keep in mind that government pensions, Social Security, etc. may not be there 30, 40, or 50 years down the line. So I recommend trying to calculate this without the expectation that you're going to get that. If from this point in your life, up till whatever age you want to retire, you contribute X amount a month to something like your Roth IRA, multiply that by the average growth curve over the next span of X amount of years, is that going to be enough for you to retire on? If it's not, then you're going to have to think of other ways and areas that you can invest. And I have to be honest, when I did this calculation for myself for the first time, that's when things got very real to me. I wasn't really saving, I wasn't really investing for my retirement, and I realized I was way behind where I wanted to be. Having this awareness allows you to prioritize and just search for more ways to improve your savings rate. Other areas that are really popular to invest in for long-term savings is other retirement funds such as a 401k, long-term real estate investing for buy and hold, bonds, or stock indices. Each one of these areas might seem complicated, but you can see they're relatively low risk and they have a general average that you can calculate into your budget. Last but not least, when it comes to saving for your emergency fund, I like to just allocate a certain percentage or certain amount every single month that comes out like a bill. And because that money is left untouched and we're not spending on emergencies as much as I am saving money for emergencies, that amount is always going to grow. And for me, that amount will likely stop when I've saved up enough to cover about 18 to 24 months of expenditures. So I wanted to give you guys an example so that you can start doing this on your own. I've listed out some necessities mixed in with elements that are necessary to feel like we're living life on our terms, and just listed them here. Now you could do this one or two ways. You can do them forward or you can do them backwards. For now, we're gonna start by doing them forward so that we can get a good idea of what these things actually cost. So let's pretend, for the sake of making an example and making it easy, we make $5,000 a month. And that's going to be our monthly income. And our food and water on average makes about $300 a person. Some people can live with more, some people can live with less. Shelter on average is $1,500 a month currently here in the United States. Clothing, this is crazy because I have here, it says that the average people spend on clothing is anywhere from $135 to $200 a month in this country. And I just think that's ridiculous. I mean, you could spend like say $500 a year on really quality clothes and not even have to purchase that. We don't even spend that for our household every single year. So I'm gonna say $500 a year. You can adjust this however you want. That comes down to about $42 a month. You know, we can include body care. So maybe let's just say $100 for just personal effects. I also have utilities, which is gonna include your internet, your water, your garbage, electricity. That can go anywhere from $150 to say $300 a month, let's say $250. Transportation, if you're making car payments, plus car insurance, car repairs, etc. I have down here that the average car insurance is about $125 a month. Now, I don't believe in making car payments. If you have car payments right now, of course, you want to factor that in. Healthcare is pretty expensive, coming in at a whopping $600 per person per month. We've got coffee. I don't even know how to calculate this. I mean, if you're buying a $3 coffee every single day times 15, you're probably spending anywhere from 60 to 75 bucks a month. How much you save up for travel, that's up to you. Netflix is, I don't know, $10, $15. Audible's $15. Investing, again, is up to you. Some of y'all go to spa and beauty and maybe you need that. Maybe you want that and that's part of the everyday vacation elements or life on your terms. So you want to do that. Home and garden, depends on the home and garden you have. Kids, same thing. Business, hobbies, meal service, any subscription boxes you might have or other subscriptions that you might want or need. Lots of us like going to restaurants at least sometimes, if not frequently. Personal help, like coaching courses, cleaning, car wash, like anything you pay other people to help you do, as well as how much you save per month. And this is the big thing. We want to know how much we're supposed to be saving, but it is important for us to know how much we're spending in relation to how much we actually make. So if you look at the first column of necessities, we're already at $29.80. That's like more than half of what we have. And so you can see in this example, we're already not going to be able to save half of our income. And $5,000 is a decent amount of money. I would consider it not enough for the average American, especially with the way that the market's inflating. But $5,000 is not a bad income, at least not for a single person. So $29.80, and that leaves you with, let's just round up, we have about $2,000 left over for all this other stuff. I mean, we haven't even had investing or travel in here or any of the other extra. I mean, there's so much, when you come down to necessities, when you're budgeting every single dollar, you notice how much extra, how much other that you didn't account for shows up. They could be things like accidental parking tickets or toll fees on the road. There's certain things that you have to account for. And for myself, I really recommend budgeting an extra 10 to 20% for other. So whatever you're spending on, if you're spending $5,000 a month or if you're spending $3,000 a month, then you should be saving an extra $300 to $600 for this other, and that is in addition to what you're investing or saving. So we're gonna go ahead and move into step 2, which is making sure that we know what things add the most value. This is kind of a no-brainer. I've already totaled them up. Food and water, you can't live without. Shelter, of course. Clothing, we've already cut that clothing budget down, which I think was a really nice clothing budget. Coffee, we don't need. We might not be able to afford to travel right now. You know, we can also apply just the very basic minimalist decluttering approach to this. And if you wanted to, you can go ahead and number these things. So, you know, we can put food and water, all these things that are circled are number 1 high priority. We're basically taking the time to list these out in the order of most important, what adds the most value to our lives. And it doesn't have to look like this. If meal service adds so much value to you because it keeps you healthy, it helps you count your macros, you're really like into that whole like counting nutrition, making sure it's perfect, then it's okay if this is number 1 on the list. But just keep in mind that your meal service, you know, might cost you $90 a week. So let's say $350 a month. Can that fit? And are you willing to invest that over being able to save more? So every time I ask myself whether or not I want to pay for something, I ask myself, am I willing to give up this money when it can go into long-term savings or investing? I ask myself, if I'm going to spend $350 a month times 12 months out of the year, it's going to be over $4,000 a year, and I multiply $4,000 a year by 7, 8, or maybe even 10% in a good market. Am I willing to say goodbye to that money over the course of 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years? Am I willing to spend that money? So when you start thinking in terms of that and what value that money has to you, all of a sudden you start to think, I really want to keep this money and I don't want to spend it on stuff that's not necessary. So we're going to go ahead and move into step number 3, which is we're going to plan. We've got our basic stuff down. We've got $2,000 left over in this example. And what we want to do is work back to front now, because what we're trying to do is plan our life moving forward. So our future is, what elements do you want when you retire? So I have like a list of basic elements here going off of our basic necessities. We're gonna go back with these same numbers, but we're talking about retirement here. And I'm going with the idea that I have bought an average home, which they say average is $360,000. I put $300,000 here. And so our average home is gonna be paid off in 30 years. So by the time we retire, that's paid off, but you still have to pay taxes on your house. So average taxes on a home for a $300,000 house, about $900 a year. That's only $75 a month, okay, in home taxes. We got to get our food, $300, food and water. This is covering our shelter here. I have about $200 for utilities here, $250 a month for home repair. And I'm going to tell you how I got this. I researched, and some people say that you want to add 1% to the value of your home and have that as your annual home repair. This is based on $1 off of the square footage of your home, which I put 3,000 square feet. So this is for 3K square foot. Right now, national average is like 2,700 square foot. We know that's probably gonna go up. I really can't imagine somebody who's retired living on 3,000 square feet. My mom tried it and it was just so much to handle. But $250 a month is gonna go into home repair, and you need to be able to maintain your house. It gets expensive. I'm still going to put in our clothing budget because that is part of our basic necessities. We need to be clothed. We need to take care of ourselves. We need to be able to stay warm when it's winter. I'm keeping the same budget that we have for clothing and effects, which is $100 per month. I don't even think my grandma spends that. By the time you're old, you're not like rough housing it. And I say old, but you know, 60 years old is not very old. But I think we take better care of our stuff. We're a little bit more mild and gentle, typically more graceful, I should say. And so I think that $100 a month on personal effects, again, you can adjust this, but we're just going off baseline necessities at the moment. I have a car here at $250 a month, and what this means is not a car payment, but this is savings for a car. And this is off of the idea that the car is going to be $30,000 every 10 years. You're buying yourself a new car. We still have the $125 national average for insurance. as well as our average for health insurance. Sorry for my crazy handwriting. And after all this, we're left with $1,900 a month for our basic necessities. Now remember, we want to add 10 to 20% for other. So we're at $2,280. But wait, that's not all. We want to add the other elements that we want to put in here. So how much do you want to spend on travel or shopping or the spa or whatever else you want to do? You have hobbies like golf or running a business or side hobby. How much is that going to cost you every single month? Now I'm going to be really conservative here and I'm going to say $1,000 for me is going to go to travel. So let's just make that $3,300 per month. So at $3,300 per month, we're living and covering our basic necessities. We have a nice big home. We have $1,000 for hobbies, travel, whatever. We got to multiply this by how many years we want to retire for. So let's pretend we do the average retirement age of 65. I like to believe that I'm going to live past 100, but for the sake of making this easy, let's live till we're about 100 years old. So we need this for 35 years. So the average retirement age, 65, is going to be a $1.386 million. We're just going to do $1.4 million. About $1.5 million. That's not bad. It's really not bad for 35 years of retirement on $3,300 a month. Again, adjust this to however you want, but we need to also multiply that by the inflation rate of 3.22%. So now we're at $4.46 million. So $4.5 million, that's about where it's going to be. But now we're going to work through this backwards. What's it going to take for us between now and then to make $4.46 million? Let's pretend we're 30 years old and we want to make it to 65. So we have 35 years to make this all work. So I have a retirement calculator that I pulled up from NerdWallet and I'll stick it in a link below. Basically, you add your age, which I've put here is 30 years old, and pre-tax income on $39,600 is $51,500-ish, just slightly under. And I put a current savings of 0. So what you can actually do is you can actually dial up or dial down this every month I save and then click on how much you need to retire. I dialed mine way past what they asked for or what they recommended, which was $1.64 million. And I just kept dialing this down until I got to the $3,300 per month of income that I want to save. They say that I have to save $2.61 million in order to have this $3,300 a month. And it even goes to tell you that it got here based on a 3% inflation rate, salary increase of 2% a year, plus a 6% rate of return before the retirement, and 5% rate of return in retirement, assuming maintaining a conservative portfolio. So that's NerdWallet's numbers. You can do this however you want. I tend to like the inflation rate of 3.22% a year. I also don't calculate any salary increases because I work for myself and I don't expect that from a job. And a 6% rate of return is actually quite conservative. I tend to calculate between 7 to 8%. So it's just up to you, but based on NerdWallet, we have to save between now, if your age is 30 and you're trying to retire in 35 years at age 65, you need to save about $1,329 per month, which is perfect because that fits within that excess $2,000 that we had if we were making $5,000 a month in our last example. I just want to pop in here and say I totally missed the memo on this optional box. So this calculation is for retiring at age 67 with a life expectancy of up to age 95. So minus the $1,329, we're left over with an excess of $671. And I think this is actually a really nice balance for this example that we have here. If I was in this position, I would save up all $2,000 of these excess dollars. And that leaves me with $24,000 a year. Now I might put $6,000 of that to max out my IRA. I'm left with $18,000, but remember, we want to be saving at least $1,330 per month going towards retirement if we want to live that lifestyle that we planned out here. So you can decide what to do to invest the extra $830. Maybe you put it in bonds, maybe you put it in stock indices, but make sure it's kind of a moderate, low risk where you're going to get that average market return rate of 6, 7, maybe 8% or more if you're lucky. And then you have $670 a month to play with. That's $8,000 a year to put into other investments, real estate, maybe your side hustle, learning how to build more income, etc. I mean, this is probably an ideal example of like middle of the road and how to get started from the very basics. Of course, if you're carrying any debt or you have car payments or anything like that, put this money towards paying that off first. Do it Dave Ramsey style. Do the $1,000 or 1 month emergency fund, do the debt snowball, then start saving and investing like this. As you can see, we all have such different desires, needs, and wants out of life. For some of us, we would rather live frugally so we have more free time and we don't have to think about making money and saving money as much as others. For other people, there might be dreams, passions, pursuits that they want to make sure that they accomplish or experience in life, and so it requires more resources. Regardless of what path in life you take, there's no right or wrong. But the best way that you can prepare to meet and reach those goals is by making sure that your time, money, and energy resources are there to back you up. And that's why it's so important to prioritize your savings. I want to tell you a little story. When I was 19 years old, I had a mentor tell me when I asked the question, how much should I be saving each month? He told me 50%. And I about died when I heard that number because it just felt exorbitant and big and huge. And what I realized over my lifetime was that it was so important for me to learn how to live more frugally or just be a little bit more of a thrift shopper, as well as in combination with learning how to make and increase my income. To some degree, this is a very basis of the formula and ultimately how much room you have to budge in your current situation. If you don't make that much money, then you either have to learn how to make more or live more frugally. If you can do both, then you can start to work up towards saving even more. It's not a fun reality, but it's one that I've had to face, and it's one that's very real and true unless you're a trust fund baby or you win the lotto. And in that case, you have a whole nother slew of responsibilities and problems that you have to solve, which is totally irrelevant to this topic. But at the end of the day, if you're not making enough to save enough, then you might consider learning how to increase your income. Regardless where you're at on your savings journey, just keep in mind that it's always a work in progress. It's never perfect. And if you start today, you're gonna be so far ahead 10 years from now. I started saving when I was like 18, 19 years old. And then when I was like in my mid-20s, I decided to blow it all and just forget about it. And I really wish that I hadn't. So if there's one thing that I can encourage you on today's video, it's just to start saving. Even if it's $10 a week or $50 a month or $20 a month, start saving because compound interest is on your side when it comes to growing money or growing wealth over time. And it really is worth paying yourself like a bill first, because even if you only save $1,000 for that emergency fund, as many of you know, times like these, it's such a relief to get a little extra money. And we can't always rely on stimulus checks or the governments to come save the day in the future. So starting a savings today is one of the best ways that you can create less stress, give yourself more security, and save yourself time, money, and energy should any other situation like this, and hopefully not worse, occur. So let me know that you like this video by hitting thumbs up, and also let me know in the comments below, do you save? How much do you save if you're willing to disclose, and do you save regularly? It's kind of crazy. The statistics say like 40 to 60% of US Americans don't even have $500 extra dollars. If that's true, that's crazy, and that is so stressful. Do you wish that you can save more? Do you have a hard time saving? Like, what's your perspective on savings? Let's start a conversation below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Ciao for now.